a certain day, I was washing the dishes and I was a bit sad that day. There was a lot going on in my life and I was asking God, when and where was it implanted in my heart, this desire to do something actively for you? And immediately the thought came to my mind and I remembered. This was when I met Europe for Jesus.
In 2016, I joined for the first time the Europe for Jesus mission trip, where I met young people with a passion for mission. When the pandemic started, I felt that I had to do something in the realm of service, and we were creating content online.
And so I thought, oh yeah, that's true. And so I went and I Googled them and I found especially their YouTube page with lots of videos there. And the first video that I clicked was a video about love that the title called my attention. And I watched more and more after that, and I realized that a lot of those people, they seemed to know each other and they were friends and family. So it made me interested. And I learned through those Europe for Jesus live stream, they announced that they were having a prayer meeting every week on Zoom. So I decided to join because I thought, oh, maybe the coordinator, Jan, my friend, will be there. And then I can get to catch up with him again and say hello. Before attending, however, I actually clicked on the testimony of my now fiancé, and I thought it was a very interesting story, and it really spoke to me directly, to a point that while I was washing the dishes, I stopped to walk towards the phone to see who was the person talking. So at that time, something else was happening in my life, which is that I felt deeply touched to leave my job at the time. And I actually shared with my friend Jan. He told me, hey, why don't you come and do a program and then participate in the Europe for Jesus live stream, sharing your testimony in a few weeks' time. And that particular time, who was scheduled to be the host was Enoch.
When I heard Rebecca's testimony, I was deeply touched. But I saw that our stories, they were very similar and there was a resemblance between them.
And one day I had a question that showed up in the prayer meetings, and I had realized that apparently he knew the answer, so I texted him. And then from there, we started talking a little bit, exchanging a few messages here and there in a very polite way. And then suddenly one day he writes to me and says,
if this friendship was to move forward, I would need to get to know Rebecca's parents.
So I was in total shock because he said exactly the words that I had asked God, but I knew that they were actually impossible.
So Rebecca, she agreed to have a Zoom call with her parents present, and that was strange. Imagine that you are 37 years old and you're asking someone's parents to have a chance to talk via WhatsApp with their daughter. We found out that this was the best way to do it. They met my mother, we had their approval. We had the chance to meet up in Lisbon, but we soon realized that this is moving too fast, and especially because I was moving from one relationship into another in a very short period of time. So we decided that for a period of 6 months, we were going to send one email per week.
So after that encounter that we had in Lisbon that day, I saw there that day a few things that I didn't like very much and that worried me, and I got a bit concerned. So I was on my way to Brazil, I arrived in Brazil, and I thought that I just wanted to start a new life there. And I didn't want to have contact with anybody back in Europe.
But before the 6 months period ended, I get message. It was a video recorded by Rebecca. All that she wanted to say was, never ever talk to me ever again. And that broke my heart.
So time passed when suddenly one day I received a call to go to Portugal. I was in complete shock and I didn't want that because I thought, Portugal, exactly Portugal now? Why? How does that make any sense? So I decided to pray, and the thing is that as much as time was passing by, the more and more I was realizing that it seemed like Portugal was the right place to be. But I did not tell Enoch. For me, this was months later. I was trying to get over it. I didn't want him to know actually that I was in Portugal. I went without telling him.
When I found out that she was in Portugal, I was in shock. especially because she wanted to apologize. When I saw her, for me it was a special moment and she gave me a hug. But she kept saying, "Enoch, I don't want anything to do with you." But from time to time, because my family was inviting her to be at my local church, I was able to exchange 1 or 2 words with her. But then I made a decision. I was going to tell her how I felt about her. And from that moment on, I was nervous the entire time. So when she showed up, I was trying to say many things, but the main thing that I had to say to her was, "Rebecca, I love you." And she was in shock. But I told her, there is nothing you can say. It does not change the way that I feel towards you.
So after he said those things to me at the car park, I felt deeply impacted. And I hugged him. He was actually shaking and sweating. So I could really see that he really meant what he said. And so we started a process of intentionally getting to know each other, but not without the permission of my parents first.
During our relationship, we had many challenges, some of them that left us thinking that it would not be possible to end up together.
I had some times of doubt and fear, but each time after thinking, praying, talking to God about it, I would always feel a conviction and a peace that it was okay to move forward and to continue moving forward. And so eventually we got engaged, and I received this peace in my heart from God. Later on, after we were already engaged and still Rebecca is still doubting and in fear and not sure, Enoch had stipulated a date that he said, okay, enough is enough. By this date, we need to make a final decision. And I was pleading with God and really struggling in prayer. And on the very day of the deadline that Enoch had given, I sat down to open one of my old journals. And when I opened it, exactly the very page was my future potential wedding vows to a husband that I didn't know and I had not met. And I even had forgotten that I had written that. But to my surprise, I actually wrote there exactly how I would meet my future husband. And it is funny that that is actually exactly how it happened.
So this is a story of waiting, a story where there were many struggles, losing also close friends, family members. My health was impacted in a negative way. And during all those struggles, all those negative moments, I needed to believe in something higher, something more powerful. So I have a friend, his name is Jan, and he had a sentence that I love, that is, just trust his heart. Just trust his heart.
But surely my decision was not based on science, but it was a lot to do with prayer, reading his word, and counseling. We counseled a lot with many people that we trust, friends, family. And to me, really the biggest sign of all is simply who he is. He is a person that completes me, that he does have the qualities and characteristics that God probably knew I needed.
I believe that this story is a story of faith. There are challenges, trials, mountains, anything that seems impossible. And by prayer, by fasting, it was possible with God to make it true and to stand here today together as a couple.